Welcome back to Market Day Report. I'm Tony St. James. Let's kick off a full week of trading. And an overnight trade, corn has been under pressure. Down 4.5 cents on the July contract at 430.5. The September down a nickel, and new crop December 448.5, off 4 3/4 cents. For soybeans, we're watching the front month July up 3/4 of a penny at 1161 1/4, unchanged on the August. September a little lower. New crop now down 3 pennies at 1117. Overnight trade for wheat in Chicago 555 3/4 on the front month. That's just a tick off of 6 cents lower in the trade, with September and December also trailing. How about hard red winter wheat? We're watching it down anywhere from 2 3/4 to 4 cents. 3 cents lower though on the July. That's the new crop 578 1/4. Spring wheat, Minneapolis, is it lower? It is until we get out to the 2025 contracts, trading a couple of pennies higher, but July down 1 at 610.5. And finally, New York cotton futures are moving higher. How about this big move on the July, 71.52? It's up 333 points at the high so far of the day. And December up well over a penny now at 73.27. Let's talk markets now. And Brian Hoops is with Midwest Market Solutions. Brian, a weekend full of weather, and we saw some heat, but also saw a little bit of rainfall, didn't we?
Yeah, good morning, Tony. It was a disastrous type weekend for a lot of producers in across South Dakota, southern Minnesota, parts of northwest Iowa, where flooding is just rampant this morning. They do expect to receive no rainfall this week, which is good news, and the water levels expected to crest and start to go down starting today. But Interstate I-90 from Mitchell to Sioux Falls was closed. Some 29 from Sioux Falls to Sioux City was closed, and a lot of areas across Iowa, small towns that were just either flooded or you couldn't get in or out of the town because the roads surrounding it were flooded. And so not only do you have devastation to crops, but also families losing their homes. So it was just a disastrous type weekend for rain in those areas. Now, if you're not in those areas, you probably receive some decent rainfall or extreme heat. But right now, I think the forecast looks bearish for the grains. I think the overnight markets that you just read are reflective of that. There's good rains forecast for southern Iowa into Missouri and then into the eastern Corn Belt on a front that moves through Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. And that's really going to be beneficial for those producers. Here in Missouri, it is getting very hot. It's getting dry. There hasn't been a lot of rain for a while, so this is going to be very welcomed. And it's really, I think what the market is telling us is there is bad areas, of course. The crop ratings probably will be down this afternoon in the crop progress report. And there has been some flooding, but overall the crop forecast looks to be bearish for these prices. And you can see December corn, soybeans, wheat all moving to some new lows overnight, and corn's zeroing in on its next key technical support area.
Brian, we have a couple of reports coming out on Friday. And speaking of reports, cattle on feed report from last Friday. We'll come back and talk about that. Brian Hoops back with us as Market Day Report continues after this. Welcome back to Market Day Report. Well, we'll have an opportunity here in a few minutes to start trading a cattle on feed report. And we'll dig into that report in just a moment. First off, let's see how the markets closed prior to the release of that COF report. Had to get the acronym in. June live cattle, 52 higher, 187.60. The August 60 higher at 183.15. The deferreds were lower. And then on feeders Friday, lower across the board, down $1.45 on the August, most active at 258.37. Hog trade on Friday. We did see mixed trade with the front 2 months in positive territory. August up a couple of dimes at 89.32. The deferreds, though, a nickel to 7.5 lower. Let's talk that cattle on feed report. And Brian Hoops rejoins us. And Brian, when we look at that cattle on feed report, one number really jumped out at me. Is it the same number that jumped out at you?
Well, maybe. I had two numbers that really jumped out at me, Tony. The first one, I think what you're talking about is the placement number coming in almost 6% larger than what the trade guess was. And I think that's what everybody's talking about. So the placements, as I said, 6% larger, likely to pressure October and December futures on the opening bell this morning. And that's attracting most of that trade attention. The other thing that caught my eye was the on-feed supplies. Now, they came in at about 11.6 million head. And it was very close to trade guesses, but I think it's overlooked that this is actually one of the most bearish numbers we've had. There's only been 5 years since 2000. So in the last 24 or 25 years, there's only been 5 years that we've had larger placements during the month of, or larger on-feed figures during the month of May than what we saw in this report. So again, I think that's going to attract some selling as well, although maybe not as much because of that strength in that cash market that we saw last week. So it wasn't a lot of head that were traded, but it was at sharply higher money. And, maybe this is it for the highest week for a while here with this on-feed numbers. And if the cutouts can't hold here and start to weaken, we may see the cash market start to slip off of the highs that we posted last week.
So speaking of the cash market, we've seen some strength there in the north and some thoughts that the South is starting to hold their own as well. Is that what you're seeing?
Well, yeah, definitely strength in the north. That 310 to 312 dress, that's $4 to $6 better than the previous week. That is very friendly, and the north is much tighter as far as supplies than the south. We've heard some cattle being brought from the south up into the north to be either finished out or to be slaughtered up there because of the tighter numbers and the higher prices. But we're worried that this cutout values, because of 4th of July demand and Father's Day demand starting to be in the rear view mirrors, maybe the cutouts start to peak out. Maybe we've seen a high in the cash markets, especially when you have this type of cattle on feed report that may have put in a top in this market.
Well, again, that cattle on feed report out on Friday. One thing we won't get is that mid-year report. Just a little bit of time left here. Is there any concern about that missing report?
Yeah, it was a concern when it was announced that they were not going to have that report because we like to know where we stand as far as inventory numbers, and we're just kind of guessing right now. So they discontinued that report. We're left to kind of just guess and estimate how many of those calves are out there on pasture and everything, and it really hurts us, I think, from trying to get that numbers accurate. There is a couple reports this week. Cold storage is out tomorrow, and quarterly hog and pig report is Thursday. So for we'll get a little bit of an idea about demand as far as the red meat demand and pork demand in our freezers and how those either build up or the drawdown has been. So that gives us kind of a monthly clue. But yeah, that pasture number, when we don't have that semi-annual inventory number, that certainly hurts us.
Sure. Brian, thanks for your time. Again, Brian Hoops with Midwest Marketing. Beautiful Springfield.